The home buyer takes all the risk. The home buyer puts in all the capital. The only thing he's asking at the end of that journey is please make sure you deliver to me what you promised to me.
Home buyer in India is actually, I think, the original promoter.
Absolutely. No questions asked. Apollo Mills, which we then sort of started calling Lodha Bedissimo, was probably the first development in central Mumbai or anywhere in South Bombay which had a sample flat. People loved the concept that somebody is taking the paint to try and showcase to us in advance how my ready apartment will look.
Going independent. In real estate also, we have Hirandanis, Runwals, outside of course Ambanis. But they happen for different reasons. In your case, do you think differences to having two separate entities, is it more based on ideology, personal, professional? What is it according to you?
I don't know how much it is about personal ideology. It is definitely more about professional ideology. There is no point of ever getting on the wrong side of your consumer. 999 out of 1,000 consumers who have pain with you are happy to assuage the pain with communication and logical behavior. Got a chance to meet the Donald. Extremely intelligent, extremely clear in his head of what he believes is right and wrong, and able to communicate that very, very sharply.
What would be your top 3 locations of India?
Nagpur, Vrindavan, and for emotional reason, Ayodhya. We are completely in awe of the vision of Yogi Adityanath ji and the ability of that state to execute. It's phenomenal. And I get a call at 2 a.m. in the night from a number 2 or 3 times. And the 4th time, I got a message, this is Amitabh Bachchan, please call back when convenient. No consumer of mine till date has ever seen an asset belonging to House of Abhinandan Lodha physically.
2030, you're 2,500 crores now. Where do you think you will be?
I think at 30% compounding, we should cross 2030 at 7,500 crores.
Hi guys, in today's episode of The Real Deal, I'll be talking to a player who's played a key role in creating one of India's most powerful real estate brands, Lodha. My guest today is Abhinandan Lodha, one of the 2 brothers who's responsible for creating the dazzling structures that we see in Mumbai and is now on his own doing plotted land development deals across multiple cities of India. He talks to me about his interactions in his real estate journey with several heavyweights including Donald Trump, Yogi Adityanath and Amitabh Bachchan. Let's talk to him and hear him out. Abhinandan, thank you for coming on The Real Deal.
Thank you, Vishal.
So, Abhinandan, many people say in Bollywood, 50% of the journey is won if you have the right surname. You as a person who's created Lodha brand in a way and then starting out afresh yourself. Do you think real estate is similar to Bollywood in that way? The surname helps a lot?
Definitely legacy helps and the kind of work that you've done helps. But it's also in that extent to Bollywood that you're only as good as your last hit or as your last movie. So you're only as good as the kind of projects you're actually able to put out, deliver, and the kind of people that you work with. So legacy helps, especially if it's built by yourself. But every single asset redefines the way people look at you.
One universal view in a way is that Lodha has disrupted sales and marketing in Indian real estate. You, I think, one of the players who's been instrumental in that perception change. Tell me, just when you got into the business, what was the thought process that made you go through it? What do you do to change the way real estate is done?
So when I got into the business, this was initially 1997 and then full-time from 2003. That time, my dad's real estate business was a reasonably small to medium-sized business. And we didn't have anything in any of the prominent locations of Bombay. And I just finished my post-graduation from the UK and came back. And from there, what I learned is unless I can look at real estate almost the way people look at FMCG, I have to look at quality of people, I have to look at distribution, I have to look at marketing, brand creation as an essential part of what we are able to do. Without that, to be able to be new upstarts and build something scalable is going to be very, very difficult. So I think we started by bringing in the right kind of people and a tremendous amount of the work was done by them.
Because one common feedback I get from all the professionals who join real estate and who work in some of the listed names particularly is that they say, Vishal, I want to do this, but somehow there's always a bottleneck. So, but okay, you said you got into the business in the early 2000s. First big project of yours would be the textile mill acquisition at Apollo Mills. Is that right?
Absolutely.
What's the journey there like? Textile mills and Mumbai real estate are a very fascinating topic.
So I'll tell you, it's a very funny journey and I'll take 2 minutes to dwell into it. So there is this Hindi movie called Khudgars, which had Shatrughan Sinha and Jitendra in it. And I sort of, one of my favorite movies when I was growing up. In that movie, there was an auction that somebody selling a piece of land and these two people are bidding. I was very fascinated by this concept of an auction. I had never seen it in real life. So we came to know that this 2005, if I'm not wrong, 21st June of 2005, that there is this auction happening of NTC mill lands in Bombay. So me and one of my father's friends called Mr. Kheni, I reached into him and I said, this auction is happening. I want to go and see what is an auction. Will you come with me? He said, yeah, I'll come with you. I said, but you need 5 crore rupees to put in because there's an EMD required and I don't have 5 crores. So he said, don't worry, we'll put the money together and we'll go. And I only went in with the desire to actually see how the auction takes place, without any understanding of what is FSI, without any understanding of how, if we win, how we'll fund it, etc. At that point of time, Papa was, I think there was some assembly must have been going on or something, so he was busy with that. So I went for the auction. The first half of the day, the auction was for Mumbai Textile Mill, which DLF won for 702 crores. It was very hotly contested. So somebody had paid, Pashnath had bid 670, somebody had bid 690 and DLF bid 702. So I said 18 acres, 702, matlab 45 crore rupees an acre, broad maths. So we should bid at 30 crore rupees an acre, nobody will not get. I didn't even understand the difference between these two locations. And then when the bids opened, there were only 3 bidders. And the first bid opened, it was some 112 crores. Second was 135 crores. I had bid 180. I was telling my father's friend, Api to gaye. Because where in the world am I, we are going to pay from? And the auction got over and I got out and I called my dad. All credit to him, he didn't get upset or angry. He said, Abhinandan, now that we've done this, let's make sure we are able to pay on time and bid something different. And then he left it to me there that how you're going to sort of take this. And I spoke to, whoever else was there in the family. And then sort of we started on the journey from there. But it was also a great amount of luck to be able to get that piece of land at that point of time.
So in a way, Apollo Mills was an accident.
Absolute accident. Absolute accident. And I think people don't really agree to it, but a huge amount of fortune has a huge role to play in real estate. The kind of assets you are able to get, the way the market timings turn, your initial customer experiences, and your ability to get your story right. A lot of it is to do with the kind of luck that you're having at that point of time. You wouldn't believe this, Vishal, but Apollo Mills, which we then sort of started calling Lodha Bellissimo, was probably the first development in central Mumbai or anywhere in South Bombay which had a sample flat. Because the rate at which we had bought it, you could only sell it at double the market price to make money. There was something by Gundecha called Gundeta Chawars, which is close by, close to ready possession, which is selling at 5,500 rupees a square foot. There was no way we could make money below 10,500, 11,000 rupees a square foot. So we said we'll change the way things are seen. At that point of time, Abhishek sort of conceptualized a very beautiful project along with the people he was working with. And we'll do 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, etc., etc. And then we built a sample flat. And people loved the concept that somebody is taking the paint to try and showcase to us in advance how my ready apartment will look. And we had fantastic sales in the first 3 months of launch.
So Apollo Mills as a location, it's still, I think, I'll say it's like a tier 2 in terms of glamour location, right?
Yeah.
It's not Lower Parel.
Yeah.
So tell me, getting into these locations, getting buyers, like you said, you need to sell at 10,000, 11,000 per square feet. What's the journey like getting buyers of a certain high income strata to come to a location that is perceived to be inferior?
So you have to create a pull. There was no way I could get somebody to conceptualize what I was going to create in Bellissimo. Technology was not that advanced at that point of time. So, and we had a very small company, like we are not prepared for this. So I think initially all the first 100 sales of Bellissimo, I sat across each consumer and did it on my own. Because, and that also made me realize the need to have a very strong professional organization by the end of that, 6-month, 9-month journey. And the only way, like I said, to do it was you build something which would attract them. So what would attract them? South Bombay's first sample flat. And then we sort of went out, reached out to a large set of people. HDFC was very helpful in that journey because Mr. Parekh, made a few calls that, these are new upcoming people. You should give them a chance. He's going to come to your office to invite you for the opening of a sample flat. Why don't you come across and have a look at it, etc. And it worked quite well because sample flat itself became a large draw for people from South Bombay to walk into central Bombay.
In funding, you said you didn't have the money to pay the 180 crores for the land. How do you raise that?
So we were we've been very lucky with financing. So I think at that point of time, this was probably the last project which got financed by a public sector bank for land before RBI changed the rules. So RBI then clamped down on land financing from public sector bank. This was the last one which got done. And this is also the benefit of working with tier A institutions in India. So State Bank of India, I did not know anybody. My father's friend Mr. Kenny introduced me to the CGM there. I met the CGM. He looked at the project report. Across the table, he told me I cannot do 150 crores. I will do 135 crores. I will do it in 45 days. And you're coming from outside as a new kid and you got all these notions regarding how it will get done and you think, will it happen, will it not happen? And I'm telling you, Vishal, on the 45th day, he called me up and said, your sanction letter is ready, please come and collect it. So 135 crore rupees came from there. Remaining, we pre-sold a lot of land in advance. The flats and there was no RERA at that point of time, so you could do advance sales. We did advance sales and we were able to complete the transaction.
Okay. One of the other big plots that's, I think, in a way, I think what defines Lodha is Lodha World Towers. I must concede that's one of my favorites in Mumbai. In terms of going for such a tall structure, I recently read, not a few years back, your brother mentioned that that's one of the projects, while it's a landmark, financially it's not been very lucrative because of the height and the costs that go associated with it. In going for such a tall building, your experience, do buyers get enthralled with these dazzling 70-80 floor structures? Is that a pull itself?
Huge. So I would not know the pain of execution on World Towers because the way our business was structured was sales, marketing and finance were looked after by me. And Abhishek looked after planning, execution strategy, etc. So I'm sure there would have been great amount of difficulty in executing, but from a marketeer standpoint, I think it was beautiful to sort of stand up and say that we are building the tallest tower in this country, and it was one of the tallest in the world at that point of time, though it was initially conceptualized. It became a huge talking point, and that's what you need to do in real estate. Every time you are able to create a pull is when you can create abnormal amount of traction in the market. Otherwise, to take a standard commodity product to the market and try to achieve either above market pricing or above market volume, it becomes too much of push. You need one pull in every asset of yours to be able to get people to come and say, you know what, I want to come and converse about this. And when they start talking, if your product is good enough, then they end up buying. But the reason for conversation has to be by creating something differential. So in that extent, the height of the tower and the fact that Armani was sort of the brand along with it on that tower was a huge pull.
Among all the projects that you've been operated in at the Lodha developers entity before you branched out yourself, which one do you think has been the most thrilling, most difficult, and third, the most successful in your view?
The park. All three, I think I would singularly call the park.
Why?
So firstly, when the park acquisition happened, that was I think the most wonderful time from in my life as a finance professional. We had to pay 2,727 crores way back in 2012 in a span of 90 days. And that's the reason why the acquisition was getting done, because there were two other people who were bidding. They had very strong financial partners along with them. They had made a higher bid than us. The only reason why DLF was talking to us at that point of time is because I told that we'll be able to pay the money in 90 days. And they genuinely thought, as I would or any rational person would, that it is reasonably well nigh impossible to be able to come up with this quantum of money. And this I'm talking in 2012. So 2,700 crores in 2012 for acquiring land was unfathomable. And to get that done, we had to sort of stretch ourselves to every extent possible, but we got it done on the 89th day. And I remember that when we had gone, initially Abhishek was leading the transaction, as he would on most of these large land buys, if either he or my father. And when they wanted comfort on the financing side, I had to go to Delhi to sort of meet the DLF team. And they asked me, Abhinandan, that's all great, but who's backing you? So I said, I don't have a name who's backing me, but I'm telling you, if you don't pay, you forfeit the money I'm paying you today. And they probably thought in their head, this guy is not talking sense. Even if the deal doesn't happen, we'll probably forfeit a large amount of money and move on, right? But to get that done in time on the 89th day was commendable. But what that also did is that put a lot of pressure on the organization. So that had to basically mean now there was World Towers and there was the park. And the park and World Towers both was roughly 5 million square feet each. That's like a crore square feet in the middle of central Bombay. Nobody's done that scale ever before. And I had to create huge sales at the park to be able to make sure that the debt didn't become too much to bear. And again, we had to create a pool. And I will tell you, Vishal, that we did something called Codename Blue Moon at that point of time. And I had 900 people on the first day at 6 a.m. in the morning standing in the lobby of my office waiting to buy a 5 crore rupee average apartment without a look at the plan, without any idea on which floor they are buying in, and without having any understanding of what the specs are. So there was the Lodha name, of course, which had credibility and value, that they will do something which is nice. And we told people you have to apply. And these concepts are all alien to Bombay. What are you talking? I want to buy a 5 crore rupee apartment. I expect to be wined and dined. But you're asking me to stand in a line and apply for a piece of land, and people supported. So I think we got close to $1 billion worth of applications. And so the combination of the financing and the marketing, which were the two things which I did, the sales, marketing, financing were my sort of prerogatives. Both of these, I think it was wonderful. And to pull it off, so we did the buying in July, August, September of the land, and with the launch in Jan, Feb, March. So to be able to do both these things in a 6-month period and do both very, very successfully, I think it was a huge flip for me also, and even for the organization at that point of time.
You said you refer to this code name. Most people now see code name and passcode, and I think one third variant is there. I don't know what it is. What's the thought process behind code name? Why does code name exist in such popularity today? Why?
So I think the credit to sort of coining code name and the concept of it goes to my ex-CMO R. Karthik. And I think it was largely his brainchild. And so Karthik largely said, Abhinandan, there has to be information asymmetry if you want to create paranormal pull from the market. So once you are launching, you reveal everything. But there is a set of people who believe that they can take a call on a brand, and lack of information will also mean better returns for them when the information becomes available. So this was the thought process behind codename, that the word codename should depict something secret, where everything will not be revealed to you. What you require, the essentials will be revealed, and if you take a call at that point of time, then by the time the launch actually happens, by the time codename Blue Moon becomes the park, there will be large value created for you by your ability to take faith in a brand and information asymmetry. So that was the concept. I think real estate then, which is a great kudos to the entire industry. They understood the concept extremely fast, and then everybody sort of decided to participate in the same way.
The first time when you put it out, did people ask, what is this code name? What is this code name?
My team asked. So and this is what I've seen in my career. Your real sales is always to your own organization. If your people believe in the story which you are telling, then real estate generally in India tends to get a lot of faith with a good brand. So, if you get people to understand the concept of code name, which is very difficult, right? Because you've always worked all your life with entire information available. You're suddenly saying, I have created Lodha Bellissimo, which had South Mumbai's first sample flat, because I want to showcase every inch of what my apartment is going to go and look like. And then you go to the other side and tell them that I'm going to do a code name and I'm not even going to release the flat areas to you. So it's diametrically opposite. But if you get your team to believe and see the value in both, then the ability to translate that is very high, because real estate as a sector gets very high participation. There are large eyeballs, people are always looking at it, it has a large impact on life. And it gets very good traction if the idea is clean and transparent.
Okay. In terms of fundraising, you mentioned earlier about your fundraise thing that you did for Apollo Mills. The big one that Lodha has done so far has been New Cuff Parade. Just when you were involved in the entity. In fact, I was there a couple of weeks ago shooting an episode for one of my other shows. Tell me, to take these dazzling scale bets, 5,000 crore odd, what is it that really makes an entrepreneur think he can go so deep into going into these locations which otherwise, even today, Vadala is not premium. At that time, to take such massive bets, what is the mind of a person?
I think largely the mind comes from the fact is when you see trends on the consumer demand side. So you have to be very, very closely associated with the ground. You're able to see the amount of demand which is coming out. And then you need to see the fact that where can you really cater to this? How do you really become abnormally large? How do you scale up in a finite amount of time? When I started off on my real estate journey, we were very small. There were people who were far, far larger than us. So the only way was constantly push the envelope and try and bring scale to the table. I think to that extent on the land acquisition side, kudos to my father that he understood what New Corporate could potentially do to Mumbai, and he sort of guided us on what we should be doing there. It was a large bet to take, but the government had also made it possible to participate because you had to pay over time. So it brought in the basic concept of Indian real estate, which I think people undervalue. Eventually, it is the bet everybody is taking on the home buyer. If you want to build like a 5,000 crore rupee project where you have a right to pay over 3, 4, 5, 6 years, I don't recollect the exact period of time, then you are largely banking on the fact that I will be able to sell, I will be able to build, and my buyer will pay me the money, which eventually will pay off a large amount of the money I owe to the landowner. And I think there the understanding of who the buyer is, why he will come here, what he will want to participate in, what kind of product is needed was very, very clear, which allowed us to take this kind of a bet.
In one of my recent episodes, a Bandra-based builder referred to you guys as being, he described that most of the industry are builders, okay? But there's a small segment that are developers who can create a location out of nothing. And he alluded to 3 examples, you being one, Oberoi being another, in that way. In your mind, do you think that there's a big difference between location and it becoming an address? In your mind, do you view something like that?
Yeah, I think even if you look at the kind of work which I'm doing today, right, I've taken places which are not necessarily addresses and tried to convert them into addresses. Location in real estate largely would mean that you get very restricted. It allows you to participate in known markets but doesn't allow you to create disproportionate scale. Addresses are places where you go and you're able to bring the entire world to play to be able to change a location which is probably A minus to A in terms of pricing, A plus in terms of product, and A plus plus in terms of velocity.
Tell me, what's the downside about doing this sort of a sales marketing approach, right? One thing I've always felt is that there are 2 companies very difficult to praise in India, okay, for very different reasons. One is Adani, okay, other is Lodha, okay, because invariably Adani has an angle which is different. Lodha's perception is that because they've done so much scale, there have been some mishaps, and eventually I think because it was first in that world of social media engagement, it actually bore the brunt of it. Do you think raising expectation disproportionately has a big downside?
I can speak till 2015-16. I think till 2015-16, the idea was not to raise any expectations. I think the expectations got raised as an outcome of the scale of work which was getting done. And I don't think even at that point of time, we were very social media aware, friendly, etc. Even the world was not. I think the world has become far more today. But yeah, the scale brought disproportionate focus. That's what I would say. I think it got a lot of scrutiny. I think it got a lot of people to look at us who would otherwise not have looked at us. It got a lot of people taking bets on either side that this they have scaled up in a manner which is right, wrong, too fast, too slow, etc. But whether it was because of scale or an outcome of a scale, I'm not really sure. I think it was more an outcome of the scale than because of the scale.
Because one thing I often hear about buyers, especially at the luxury end, is that because they get so driven by this dream when they're buying a home, that when it doesn't turn out to be as close in reality, they lash out. In fact, one of the recent cases I see are with a couple of developers, but one is with your entity at Trump Tower, which you aren't involved currently, where an issue of about like a private jet. I posted about it and people found it pretty odd that people complain about private jet also. Do you think that's a big downside when you promise something to that sort of a buyer and it doesn't go quickly much to reality? There's a big downside, do you think?
I think this is across all segments. It's generally the Indian buyer is very believing and trusting. I'm not talking about Macrotech or any specific company in any manner. I don't know any case which you're referring to today. But in general, any buyer who takes the leap of faith, for example, if I take a look at House of Abhinandan Lodha, right? Our business is based on pure trust. No buyer has seen any land parcel which we are developing in physicality in person. Everything is across the screen. So if I go to the House of Abhinandan Lodha and buy a 2 crore rupee piece of land at Ayodhya ji, and Abhinandan Lodha has promised me I'm going to build a Leela hotel here and build a great clubhouse. And I've taken the leap of faith and I've given that full support to that ecosystem. Then if at the end of the journey Abhinandan Lodha does not deliver that, it will cause great rancor and great pain. And I think it is right also, because most Indian developers, 95-98%, actually don't come with large financial support on the back. Their general skill is entrepreneurship and the desire to do, and huge amount of backing from the buyers. India is probably one of the few countries in the world where you start assets without full financial closure, because everybody believes there is going to be a home buyer who's going to step in and pay a large amount of the project cost. And if the home buyer there is doing that and effectively become almost a partner with you, that's what you would do otherwise. You would go and get a partner to fund you. Then he also has a right to at least ask you at the end of the journey that what you promised me, please deliver. I think that's essential.
Home buyer in India is actually, I think, the original promoter.
Absolutely. No questions asked. I don't think, I could tell for myself, I would not be able to build House of Abhinandan Lodha to even 10% of the scale that which we have without the kind of more than desired and more than expected support of my buying community. And I think that would apply for almost every developer across the country. The home buyer takes all the risk, the home buyer puts in all the capital, and the only thing he's asking at the end of that journey is please make sure you deliver to what you promised to me.
Do you think builders respect home buyers in India as much as they should?
I think builders value home buyers. I think the amount of respect they deserve is much more and should be more. And I'm sure with the new generation that will happen.
Because I've always found it it's almost unfathomable, because when I hear queries from buyers, is that I think there are 2 or 3 things in this. One is that I think just when things start to go wrong, for some odd reason, many Indian builders, I'm not saying the top ones I think are a lot more responsive, but when you go just below that tier 1 level, they just stop communicating. It's that sort of situation when you're having a fight between 2 guys, one guy just stops talking, and after things just dry up, and that then initiates this entire grapevine communication, which in a way makes a vulnerable project a dead project, because people start saying, "Arey, he's done this."
Correct.
It gets a life of its own. Do you think that builders have to start communicating more with buyers when things start to go wrong in India?
Absolutely. I think that's true for any industry, far more true for real estate, because people put a disproportionate amount of their entire net worth when they're buying their apartment. I think it comes from the fact that we need to value buyers more, we need to communicate much more. And I also think we have to be accepting of the fact that as developers you will make mistakes. Right? There could be times with us also that we probably promised somebody that we'll finish this on day 45, and you don't finish on day 45, you may take 5 or 7 or 10 days extra for whatever reason. At that point of time, if the organization does not have a system of active communication, it creates a grey spot. It's almost like when you click onto a website and if you see a circle coming round, some activity is happening. That is communication back to you, and you wait patiently. But suppose you click and there's no circle coming, then you don't know what's happening and you keep trying again and again and again to go back to the same website. So non-communication is a huge problem because it allows people to sort of interpret things in their own way. I think communication and acceptance of mistakes. That we made this bloopy, we made this mistake, we are sorry about it, and this is how we sort of plan to make good for it, is essential. And I think that will slowly seep in, because I think buyers are becoming more aware, developers are becoming more responsible, and I'm quite confident you'll see a huge amount of change in the next 3 to 5 years, where developers will start behaving more on the line of consumer tech companies than the way developers used to behave earlier.
Why do you think abhi tak itna change nahi aaya? Because if you read the papers now, you see some top brands also being under the gun. And their answers, when I read them, it's very similar to what used to be the answers pre-2010. Why do you think that most builders have not yet been able to adapt to this new reality?
I think, Vishal, what happened is it's been a very sharp turn on the cycle. So I think there was a period in the middle where developers didn't have everything going for them. This is pre-COVID, where not everywhere sales was great, where there was an overhang of leverage, etc., where home buyers were not that participative, sales was slower. There were all sorts of things, and suddenly post-COVID has gone from one extreme to the other. So I think that journey has not completed its course. Now when markets have stabilized, organizations have become more visible and larger, and consumers have become more clearer in their communication, you will see a lot of changes over the next 3 or 5 because now the industry is actually stabilized. Now people know that this is the base of life. If I want to go above the base, then these are the levers I have. And consumer transparency and communication is one of the most important levers going forward.
Okay. So you're optimistic about the next 3 to 5 years?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because, you mentioned the point of COVID. During COVID, there were these whole webinars that were being done by many developers. I'm sure you must have been a speaker in some of them or may have heard them. And that was the first time actually when I saw builders do a lot of introspection. That we have to treat the home buyer well, we made this mistake, that mistake. Unfortunately, like you said, the cycle has turned around. I somehow see those same people who used to were giving these sanctimonious introspection during that time go back to the same behavior before COVID. Because again, I think they've started to take buyers for granted. Because that's my fear. That do you think we might be seeing builders again go through the same cycle of treating buyers with some degree of disdain? Do you think?
थोड़ा difficult है at this stage because there is a set of developers who evolved on the other side and they will get disproportionate market share. There is a set of people who understand the value of the home buyer more today as compared to what they did 3 or 4 years ago, and the market will see that disproportionate premium and market share will go to such developers because now the home buyer values his transparency communication far more than they did probably earlier. And that will force the developer community to sort of say, no, this is now a baseline. We have to work in this way with all our buyers. It's almost like earlier it was how they used to say कि दुख में सुमरन सभी करें, सुख में करे ना को, जो सुख में सुमरन करे तो दुख काहे को हो.
Okay. Before we come to your current scale of you in a way becoming independent again and now doing this disruptive plotted land developments, which have, I think, sort of transformed the way how a lot of activities happen in real estate. Going independent. In real estate also, we have Hirandanis, Runwals, outside, of course, Ambanis. But they happen for different reasons. In your case, do you think differences to having two separate entities, is it more based on ideology, personal, professional? What is it according to you?
I think it's got to do with just age in life. I think after a certain age, people of similar mindset, similar thought process, similar age bracket, etc., don't necessarily work extremely well together. And everybody builds their own work culture, work ethics, work ideology. I don't know how much it is about personal ideology. It is definitely more about professional ideology. We probably think differently. We believe in different things. We want to build businesses which are different from each other. And fortunately, there's enough and more for everyone to do.
What would you say is the one big difference between Abhishek and you in terms of you said at a professional level? What do you think is the one big difference?
I wouldn't be able to say today, Vishal, because I don't think we worked together for the last 9 years in any meaningful manner. But I think when we were working together, Abhishek was far more focused on strategy and execution. I was far more focused on sales, marketing and finance. And that reflected in everything that we did. I would always think sales, marketing, finance first. He would always think at that point of time, execution and strategy first. And I think that in itself are two different words.
In your worldview, does product matter more than sales or sales matters more than product?
Product matters for the purpose of driving sales. Product is very important because you cannot create disproportionate movement in the market without a phenomenal product.
What do you think is Lodha's best project so far, in your view?
I would think the park. I think for the kind of community which has gotten built there, and that's probably also one of the only projects I've visited post 2000 because some friends living there. I think it has come out in terms of the community which it has. I think all buildings in Mumbai look very, very nice on completion. And I won't say one is better than the other otherwise. But sometimes when you get like-minded people together in the community and what it really creates for the environment for the home buyer post-delivery, what I've seen at the park is quite good.
Within the park, you have another iconic brand, Trump. In your view, now of course Donald Trump is everywhere. You can't ignore the man. Do you think buyers get attracted to a brand like Trump, even though you specify that he's not constructing it, like, in a way?
At that point of time, they did. I think at that point in time, Trump had not become the president of the US. So, when we were doing the Trump Towers, a lot of people who bought were actually from the diamond community. And when I spoke to some of them, they gave me this very interesting insight. And this is why consumers teach you so much. That most of the people who bought were people who'd gone to the US in 1980s and 1990s, where at that point of time they were just starting off, and Trump was an iconic building to look at. And they probably in their early age sort of put in their mind, यार यदि मैं life में कहीं पहुंच गया ना, तो मैं Trump में एक flat खरीदूंगा. So that time it was probably the Trump in Chicago or the Trump in New York. But when they saw that Trump coming to India, and now these guys have now reached a stage in life where they can afford to buy more than 1-2 apartments in a Trump, it was, for a lot of them, it was almost like that achievement which you've seen in your childhood coming to life. And definitely for the Trump, I would tell you hands down that a lot of the buyers bought more out of emotional attachment to their early age than rational decision making at mid-age.
So, did you ever get a chance to meet the big man?
I got a chance to meet the Donald. He came down to India for one of our press conferences, and remarkable man, great amount of energy, loves himself.
What's your initial thought about him, like Donald Trump?
So I think extremely intelligent, extremely clear in his head of what he believes is right and wrong, and able to communicate that very, very sharply.
Would you say Donald Trump is probably the original salesman in real estate, world real estate?
I would say one of the most well-known sales brands, and that has to come and it's a personal brand. It is not it is Donald Trump, which is the brand which sells the Trump organization, at least till 2015, till what I've seen. So from that perspective, he is the salesman.
Any interesting anecdote that you had while talking to him? That is he right now? Just when somebody sees him, of course, with these presidential debates, it almost seems that he's very sharp, but he's always under the gun, and he doesn't take a step back. Is that the same way he's in business? For him, in a way, there's no plan B. When he goes all in.
Wouldn't be. I didn't have that kind of a detailed interaction with him, so I probably got half an hour to spend with him, and then another couple of hours around him when he was doing the press conference. But what I clearly saw is somebody who believes phenomenally well in himself, and you can't get him to back off. There's no way he's going to take a step back and say something. I think he believes in what he says and he sticks by it, and he's willing to pay the cost of whatever comes along on that line. So
just when you say he doesn't take a step back, what do you mean by that? That when he says something, he'll go through with it?
Yeah, if he says that this is what I want to do, and if you and this is it, then it's not gamemanship. He actually means this is it. So if you tell him that I want to put a Jaguar fitting in the apartment, and he says Jaguar won't do and Hans Grohe will do, or I won't sign with you, then he means it. He's not trying to be a game. He's not trying to be a brinkmanship with you.
So basically, in your view, you've had a good experience dealing with him?
Absolutely. But like I said, I only met him once, and that was as part of a meet and greet session. It was a very nice interaction, lot to learn from him. But that was my only interaction.
What's the one thing you would like to learn from the Donald?
Belief, self-belief. For somebody to come back, I think he's gone through financial cycles of his own, including times when he sort of said that things are not working out. But to always come back and stand and keep the brand going. I don't think the Trump brand got compromised ever, despite whatever the organization went through. I think that's a unique story.
Was he receptive to all your ideas that you had for the Trump Tower?
We didn't have too much interaction, like I said. I think they were very, very clear that this is what we will do, this is what we will not do. And I don't think they had a great amount of flexibility around it. But because I was not involved on the execution side, I really can't comment. He was quite clear on what he wanted to tell me. Abhinandan, this is the kind of guy who should be buying with you. This is the brand of the Trump. This is the kind of premium you should be having. I think those things were quite clear in his mind, and they were also all quite true.
Okay.
Yeah, he had a great insight.
He had a great insight on Mumbai real estate city.
He had a great insight on saying that the kind of people who buy with you will be people who are sort of reached in life but still aspiring.
What does that mean?
That basically means that they are no longer financially, so they've arrived financially, but this address will define the way the world looks at them. And I think in his mind it was very clear, this is the kind of guy who will pay a 30% premium to the market to buy with you. And that's bang on. He knew his consumer.
So basically they have the money but they want the status.
They have the money, they want the status, and they believe that Trump is their status.
Tell me, Abhinandan, just moving away from Trump, it's hard to ignore the man given the elections. In your view, looking down 10 years from now, as someone who's created a brand, a big, powerful brand, almost on the verge of doing it again, in a way, this is part 2 for you with plotted land. Which one is more difficult?
I think I can tell you that the creation of House of Abhinandan Lodha has been far more enjoyable, far more rewarding for me, and also allowed me to sort of look at creating a category in an age-old category. When you're able to create a new category and create scale, it is also far more rewarding. It allows me to do much more differentiated work, and allows me to look at my consumer in a very different way. Today, with the way the modern technology is available, the kind of data which you can look at with the consumer, I think in that way, this is almost creation of a consumer tech company in real estate. And this journey has been far more rewarding for me.
How do you get into this? Like, this is like land has existed for thousands of years. In India, people have been doing real estate all the time. How does this category emerge itself?
So, like with everything else in life, I've been very, very lucky. This, to sort of say I planned this would be to lie. It was sheer coincidence and luck. Along with a friend of mine, I had ended up buying some land in Dapoli, which is near, where the Dapoli power plant was at some point of time. And it just, over time, we accumulated 100 acres. Once we did that, COVID hit. And my sort of friend said that we need to find a way to monetize this. And I said, I'm a developer, I won't sell to another developer. Let me try and do something different. And I had this asset of land, I said, I've always benefited from land all my life. Right? I've seen the journey where sort of you buy land in Thane at 2 crore rupees an acre, and after 15 years, that land in Thane becomes 70, 80, 50, 60 crore rupees an acre. FSI norms change, urban limits change, and land becomes wealth. So if it is so obvious to me, it has got to be obvious to almost every Indian. And all of us Indians have this huge need for land and gold is inherent to us. So what is it that is stopping us from participating in land in a big way? And I sort of concluded that there are 4 issues on the consumer side and 1 on the developer side. The issues on the consumer side is, how do you solve for title? How do you solve for possession? How do you solve for liquidity if there is an event? And how do you solve for transparency? If I can solve all these 4 problems, then I can solve the problem on the developer side. What the problem on the developer side is that it's not a scalable business. Because every buyer wants to come and see the piece of land before he buys it. How do I build a business of scale? Because I had this 100-acre parcel of land, I said from the first day, I'll solve for these 4 problems using my Abhinandan Lodha's inherent equity in real estate. I will build everything extremely transparently, title done from the best firms in the country, everything available on your app, including agreements to see, making sure there's a resale window available, so liquidity is not a problem. I will do individual 712 extract in your name, so title belongs to you individually, not to a society. And I'll do a fantastic job on security and compounding. So I'll solve for your 4 problems, and let's solve for my problem as well, that I will build a non-physical organization. So no consumer of mine, Vishal, till date, has ever seen an asset belonging to House of Abhinandan Lodha physically, till possession, ever. No single consumer of ours has ever come to our office for an interaction on buying land. Everything which we do is on the back of technology across the screen and riding on my brand name.
So basically, the conventional wisdom that real estate is a touch and feel game, that's been changed.
We reversed it 180 degrees. And we said land is wealth. COVID has allowed people to value time far more and also be okay with new ways of doing things. We will build a purely digital business and see what scale we can bring with it. So we'll not put scale before the business, we'll put business and see scale as an outcome. And we launched this 100-acre development in Dapoli, Vishal. Our idea was, if we sell this in 6 months, we've done brilliantly. Because we're talking about 1,200 plots, which means 10 to 12,000 consumer interactions for 1,500, 1,600 people to apply and 1,200 people to actually buy. In our mind, you couldn't do it before 6 months. We sold out in 3 weeks.
How?
So we sort of put ourselves out there. We sort of did digital campaigning. We called our consumers. We put out ads, and the way people responded. I mean, our idea was the consumer will probably come from just Pune or Sindhudurg or areas around Konkan. We had people from Chicago, New York, Delhi, Mumbai, all over the world buying. And suddenly people said, you know what, we love the idea that you're bringing land to us like a consumer tech company in a size which we can absorb. 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs. We are happy to put that kind of money. You know, your brand provides us the comfort and you're showing us things across the screen. We'll take this bet on you. And people took a bet on me as a person, as an individual. Those 1,200 consumers who backed me initially, I owe a lot to them, because if they would not have backed, I would not have built a business. And once we did that, we realized that we've hit something which we didn't anticipate, that the Indian love for land is so large that if somebody is willing to walk the talk and be transparent on the other side and bring value to the table, then people want to participate in India's development story. So the guy living in Jodhpur knows that Nagpur is going to appreciate in a way which India has not seen before, or the guy living in Chicago knows that Ayodhya is going to be the place to go to 10 years from now. And they are willing to take these bets as long as you keep these 4 problems solved and as long as you constantly communicate to the consumer. And I think that's allowed us to scale up tremendously over the last 2.5, 3 years.
So this is also in a way accident, right?
Absolute accidental.
So Abhinandan Lodha is basically a real estate entrepreneur twice by accident.
Abhinandan was a real estate entrepreneur by maybe lack of choice, but successful out of accident both the times.
Okay. Since then, I've been seeing a lot of plotted developments that have happened from many of your peers, from the Godrej to Kalpatru. Rustomji did recently as well. What's the secret sauce in doing this? Like, ticket size matters, of course. Is there a minimum size that needs to be there for these plotted developments to really gain traction? The smallest I think I've seen is 1,000 square feet. Would you say that's the bare minimum, or 1,000 is too small?
1,000, 1,200 square feet is the bare minimum. Average ticket size is closer to 1,800 square feet odd, at least in what we do. And I think today, and I'm quite happy to say that by far we are the largest in the country. We are built only for horizontal development. We are very, very focused on our consumer. We are very focused on our processes, our transparency, and owning up our mistakes, which we will keep making from time to time. And we are a business which only understands this. So I think because of that, while some of our peers are able to sort of do this on a standalone basis, to do this at the size and scale at which we are doing, you need to be focused only on this.
But your view में सबसे plot size का सबसे कम size कितना होना चाहिए?
1,000 से 1,200 फुट.
1,000 से कम it's too small.
It's too small क्योंकि आपको उसको eventually लोग इसको लेके यूज भी करना चाहेंगे. तो आप 1,000 फुट से कम के प्लॉट में बनाना, थोड़ा ओपन स्पेस रखना, you are going there because you want some sense of openness, some sense of space. You don't want to go back to another apartment. Most people are not buying this to build another apartment. They are buying this either for wealth or for consumption. But then if they want consumption, they want a little bit of openness.
Okay. You mentioned Ayodhya. Now this year that's dominated the news cycle. I think anybody who saw Ayodhya's promotion in a way, I think the initial impulse is that, wow, this is expensive. What's been the journey like in Ayodhya for you?
So the Ayodhya journey was quite interesting. I think we probably were the first ones to go there. Even today, we are the only ones who actually have an approved planned township which is already under development in Ayodhya. We were very, very enamored by the vision of the government. Then we got lucky because Yogi Adityanath ji had come to Bombay for a conference, which was the Invest UP conference. By some faith, I got invited to the conference. And I was sort of sitting in the front row, and he said, if anybody has any question, ask. And I asked. And when he heard the question, he said, आप पहले अपना नाम बताइए. So I said, I'm Abhinandan Lodha. He knew my grandfather. They were members of parliament at the same time at some point of time. So he said, आप कुमानमल जी लोढ़ा से related है? मैं बोला हाँ साहब, मैं उनका पोता हूँ. तो he said कि आपके सवाल का जवाब मैं दे ही दूंगा, लेकिन आप यदि यूपी में कुछ करना चाहते हैं तो आप लखनऊ आइए, हमसे मिलिए और हम आपको बताएंगे कि यूपी में क्या होने वाला है. And unbelievably, Vishal, his office gave me time when I asked for time. They met us, and whatever was publicly available, he put out. But when you meet with that person, when you interact with him, you are very, very clear that he's going to walk the talk. If he's saying, Ayodhya ji aisa banne wala hai, then you can see it in his eyes and his passion ki Ayodhya ji waise banne wala hai. And I think we took that call. We took the call that this guy is a great leader and he's going to do exactly what he's saying. And if this actually gets done, then we are going to see transformation of Ayodhya ji from what it was to what it is and what it is going to become in a very, very short span of time. And we took that call. We started acquiring land. Very difficult, very, very difficult to acquire land there. We bought 50 acres of land initially from 1,400 farmers over a period which lasted more than 24 to 30 months, including buying absolutely unconnected pieces of land with the belief we'll get disconnected. Which is why nobody else has been able to buy large tracts of land in Ayodhya. And today even we can't. Land prices have moved up in a manner which is very, very difficult. But we got this. I think the kind of support which we got there, or which anybody gets there for that matter, is the bureaucracy or the people who are supposed to approve your plans, etc. They are very transparent. These are the rules. You want this fit in the rules, we'll do this in so many days. It's like a private organization which delivers on time. We've seen the benefit of that. We got our approvals. We were able to start constructing, zero interference. If you're coming from Bombay, you believe you're going to Uttar Pradesh or somewhere, maybe there'll be local interference. Zero interference. It's a great, great place to do business. And we are doing much more in UP now. We are doing it in Vrindavan. We are doing Banaras. We are doing Lucknow. And we are completely in awe of the vision of Yogi Adityanath ji and the ability of that state to execute. It's phenomenal.
What's been your pulse dealing with Yogi Adityanath? He's a controversial figure, but a lot of people like the way he has managed things in the state. आपका experience कैसे था उनके साथ?
In my mind, Uttar Pradesh is the most business-friendly state in this country where I have done large amount of work in. It's actually unbelievable how clear and transparent he is in his thought process, and how the entire state machinery, once it is clear that what you're doing is within the purview of law, falls behind you to make things happen. If you are within the purview of law, there will be nobody who will come and try and hinder. We are doing work in Ayodhya ji, we are doing work in Vrindavan, Banaras, Lucknow, all of these places. And I can tell you, I have not even had to deal with one person outside the system ever. Absolute focus on execution as a state, absolute focus on ease of doing business, and complete availability of everybody across as long as you are coming to them within the purview of law. I don't think anybody else in any other state would have seen something of this nature. It is phenomenal.
What do you think is his biggest strength, Yogi Adityanath?
His ability to focus and execute and get people to focus on execution. I think what Yogi ji says is less than 10% of what he actually does. To run a state like Uttar Pradesh, the most populous state of the second most populous country in the world, and to administer the way he administers law and order, and to bring the kind of investment he's bringing into UP at the same time. So one side is law and order, one side is business. He's managing both of these. And he still continues to talk exactly the same way he spoke when he became CM for the first time. His political ideology is the same. He talks the same language. His business approach is the same. His approach to law and order is the same. And all of this comes from a phenomenal set of people who work below him, who are very, very focused on execution. And he himself was very, very clear. He has no time for small talk. This is what I'm going to do and this is what I will get done.
How long are your meetings typically when you meet him? Is it like really, really short?
Really, really short. I think the longest meeting I had with him was probably for 30 to 45 minutes. Otherwise, it's 5, 10, 15 minutes at most. It is, you go to your agenda, He will ask you and he's genuinely concerned. How are you? How is business? How is your family? He will remember the name of your child. He will remember the name of your mother. He will ask that question. If you tell him there's a problem, he will tell, अच्छा इस डॉक्टर के पास चले जाओ, इस स्कूल में बात कर लो, यहाँ पे ये कर लो. He will take that pain for you as an individual. Beyond that, what is it that you need from UP? What is it that you're doing for UP? That's the only conversation.
You refer to the part that it took you 24 to 30 months to acquire land in Ayodhya. Land is a complex maze. Do you think, what's the secret sauce about dealing with so many stakeholders to get this land, in your view? क्या क्या करना पड़ता है?
दो चीज़ें बहुत क्लियर रखनी पड़ती हैं. You should be very, very clear where you're going to be able to price your end product at. And that's very important, I'll tell you why. Because where I am working, there is no organized way of buying land except getting to the ground and buying it from the end farmer. And you have to be very, very clear that you are participating in the local economy. It has to benefit from you. And the only way you'll be able to get disproportionate land etc. is if you're willing to pay well above the current market price, because you know that by the time you bring product to the market will re-rate, and having clean title land available with you at that point of time will allow you to create disproportionate premium for execution. So I think we are very, very clear. We don't really go into ready reckoner rate or market rate of land. We pay what we believe is well above market price, and we put on ground teams to execute. We allow the process to run the way it is, which basically means that you could be acquiring a 50-acre parcel with only 5 here and 5 here and taking the risk of the remaining 40 coming or not. That's your business risk. You have to take it if you want to work in multiple states in the country. And over a period of time, as you keep interacting with local people and build goodwill, then they allow you to become a part of the economy and they allow you to participate. You have to have patience.
Is it possible to be clean and ethical in buying land given the type of cities you go to? Like everybody talks about these smaller cities where it's a complete, some people call it chaotic, some people call it a mess. Is it possible to be clean in doing all these transactions?
It is if you're willing to pay a premium. So I think if you start trying to be that the market price 100 रुपया है, मैं तो 100 रुपये में ही खरीदूंगा, मैं तो 90 में खरीदूंगा, 110 में खरीदूंगा, it doesn't work, because then local economies have a lot of local flavors. If you're willing to say market price is 100, I believe the fair value of land is 175. I am willing to pay you 175 today. And I don't have no whistles and bells attached that only if you get this guy, only if you that guy. That's my business. I make a margin because I take a risk. And the risk I'm taking is I'll be able to aggregate the land. If I don't do it in one place, that's the pain my business has to take. I can't translate it on to the guy who's selling the small piece of land to me. So if you do these two things, pay a premium and be patient and understand that this risk is the inherent risk of the business that you're doing, then you will be able to acquire land in a seamless manner.
Is there a threat in these geographies of what people call the local land mafia?
Nothing. So we bought land in Amritsar, we bought land in Shimla. Maybe we now have land in multiple states in this country. There is no concept of local land mafia unless you want to try and shortchange somebody. If you want to try and acquire land cheaper, if you want to try and acquire land by using people who believe you have more influence, then it is eventually going to come back and hit you as well. If you are very, very clear that's not the way your business is going to function, because you can't do it, Vishal, at scale. You can't say I'm going to operate like this in 10 states in the country. It's not possible. The only way it is to build a scalable model by being willing to pay a premium. The moment you are willing to go to your end consumer, see whether it's the end consumer who's actually buying from you or whether it's the end consumer who's actually selling the land to you. If you're direct to consumer, then you will always be able to create a very, very transparent system.
But ये जो common perception है land mafia का कि you get threats and all those things, that's not there.
Zero interference.
Across state?
Yeah. So Punjab, where land is, a subject, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Maharashtra, Goa, all of these states, zero.
Okay. Just one question on Ayodhya. There was this big campaign with Amitabh Bachchan buying land, etc. Would you say Ayodhya has been a success for you after launch? Has it performed the way it should have?
So I will tell you this, that using the word success in my mind for Ayodhya ji would be sort of putting a small word. It has been a turning stone moment for our organization. I think it has been a great success from a sales and marketing perspective from day one. So sort of the 51 acres that we had, we sold out almost in 30 days or less. But the kind of contribution it allows us to do back to the local economy and the kind of brand it has created for us we had people from all over the world, some of which, I can't name for confidential, wanting to come and buy with us. I don't think we would have ever got that kind of people to come and participate with House of Abhinandan Lodha at such an early stage if it had not been for Ayodhya ji. Mr. Bachchan, for example, and Vishal's an interesting story. People think he's a brand ambassador. Actually, he's not.
He's not.
He's not.
He's actually paid.
So I'll tell you the story. I was in Australia for a break in December 2023 with my kids and my family and along with my mom. And I get a call at 2 a.m. in the night from a number 2 or 3 times. I didn't pick up. It's like 3 in the night where I am. But it's, day in India. And the 4th time I got a message which basically says, "This is Amitabh Bachchan. Please call back when convenient." And I had the privilege of meeting him when he was the brand ambassador for Palava. So I obviously had that interaction with him. So I, of course, at 3 a.m. in the night, it's Amitabh Bachchan. You stand up on your bed and you call him. And he's humility of the great man. He's telling me, "Abhinandan ji," I'm like 40 years younger to him. "आपके लोग मुझे मेरी भूमि में ज़मीन खरीदने नहीं दे रहे हैं. मुझे अयोध्या जी में ज़मीन लेनी है. आपका प्रोजेक्ट आ रहा है. मुझे 15,000 फुट और 14,000 फुट सम सच नंबर ज़मीन चाहिए. मैं कल सुबह पैसे भेज रहा हूँ. कौन सा प्लॉट मेरे लिए ठीक लगता है आप तय करके मुझे बता देना." I said, "साहब, आपको पैसे भेजने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. आपने बोल दिया बहुत है." नहीं करके he kept down the phone. Next day morning, he transferred 15 crore rupees. And then he called up and said कि देखिए मेरी रजिस्ट्री जल्दी करवा दीजिएगा. And of course I went to thank him, and Vishal, I'm not kidding, he was on a shoot, so I went to thank him at a shoot. It's like a huge hall. He's on one end of the hall, I'm on this end, and I walk in. He does not know me by face, so somebody goes in advance and informs him कि Abhinandan has come, आपको thank you करने आना चाहता है. Superstar of India, across the room, he comes like this. आपकी वजह से हमको अयोध्या जी में ज़मीन मिल गया. I said, "साहब, आप क्या कर रहे हो? Please don't do this. I'm nobody in front of you." That is the humility of the man, and that is what Ayodhya ji did for our brand. Amitabh Bachchan ji sort of participated in House of Abhinandan Lodha only because of that. And I know there are so many more people who would have never been a part of our ecosystem so early had it not been for that place. So financially it's been great, but the kind of brand value and the kind of consumer base it has got for us, and the privilege it allows us to be a part of that growing ecosystem, I think it's unbelievable to be able to get this at year 2.5 of an organization.
Okay, so basically you're saying Amitabh Bachchan actually bought those blocks.
Absolutely.
This is not a tacit brand ambassador deal which has become a plotted.
No.
It's actually.
Yeah. And that's the way it got picked up also. He registered his document in Ayodhya. And that's where Hindustan Times picked up the registered document from, where he's paid the entire amount. It's part of the document.
Regarding land, you said you're there in many cities. How many cities is your enterprise involved in? What sort of land bank do you have?
So today we are actively executing across 8 locations. Our land bank is probably in 6 more, so totally 14. We have close to 700 acres under execution today, out of which 180 acres will get delivered in the next 4 months' time. And over and above the 700 acres, we have another 500 to 700 acres which is part of our land bank.
Okay. And as far as the journey going forward, will it be only on your twin formula of cultural locations and tourist locations? Is that the formula?
Cultural, tourist and infrastructure. So the underlying story actually plays on India's infrastructure story. Our belief is that India is getting urbanized very fast. What is called Tier 2 India or Tier 1 minus India is actually where India is going to move. Infrastructure is getting built there in a phenomenal way. So we've identified 48 locations across the country where we see central and state government coming together to build great infrastructure and economic activity which is ahead of what you see otherwise across the country. Those 48 locations are where we are aspiring to be. Cultural, pure tourism, pure infra. That's the mix that we have.
Okay, the 3 mixtures when they come together, what would be your top 3 locations of India?
Nagpur, Vrindavan, and for emotional reason Ayodhya ji.
Nagpur, Vrindavan, Ayodhya. Why Nagpur? What's the infrastructure?
Great amount of infrastructure. Also, Nagpur is to that entire belt what Maharashtra is to, what Mumbai is to, India or Maharashtra. It's the place where everybody wants to be. It's the hub, phenomenal amount of activity, great entrepreneurship, fantastic infrastructure, great governance. You can't ask for more.
Okay. And Vrindavan, I'm guessing, cultural?
Yes, and also Vrindavan is almost inherent part of our psyche. So there's a lot of people who actually want to go back and live in Vrindavan after they turn a certain age. It's actually consumption-based tourism more than pure tourism.
Okay. In this entire episode, you've spoken a couple of times, alluded to the making mistakes but correcting them. What would be the two biggest mistakes you think that have happened in your career so far, where Abhinandan went wrong and you're fixing or not fixing in it?
So I'll not speak about the mistakes pre 2015 because that honestly is difficult for me to comment on now. But I can tell you from where we are sitting currently. So our the two large mistakes which we probably made is initially in our Dapoli assets we didn't get the concept of build right. So we didn't really envisage that 30-40% of our consumers will actually want to build on the location. We didn't plan for that. We didn't stock up for that. So when 30-40% of the people said we want to build, we were not able to be as supportive as we would like. Now we've corrected that. We have a build program in HoABL where we are able to constantly engage back with the consumer. If anybody wants to build, you can go on our app, you can select the 4 contractors, the 4 design, you can ask us to execute. If you want to do it on your own, you have site support from our side, you can execute on your own. So I think not solving the build part early was one of the bigger mistakes that we sort of made. The second sort of mistake that I believe we continue to make at times is that because we are growing so fast, sometimes our communication to our customers is not as strong as it needs to be. Sometimes, for example, if a customer books and he's cancelled, he should get his refund in the promised time. Sometimes it just happens that because we are growing so fast, a sales guy may say, I've not picked up his phone, I'll call back tomorrow, and tomorrow he forgets to call back. So we should have put that through a process and a system. We've rectified that as well. So getting that right on the consumer side is very, very important. And I think the next 30 to 45 days time will fix that completely as well. So far, that's been the two ones.
Anything prior to 2015? Just the reason I asked this is it reminded me of an example that Niranjan Hirandani told me that I asked him which was the project that he posted a loss in. And he referred to one example in Kharghar where he said we went in, we couldn't even sell at the cost, which was the cost of our construction. And he said that's why his brother has then told him never to enter Navi Mumbai. Okay, core Navi Mumbai. Of course, he's there in schedule. In your case, is there any one thing at the domain that you were looking at, since you said sales or marketing or even funding, that you think prior to 2015, you would look back and say, I wish I had done this differently?
Yeah, I would say at points of time we were not able to sort of get our communication with our consumers completely right on the delivery cycle. I think we are growing very, very fast at that point of time, and we should have communicated far more. We should have, if we were getting delayed, I'm not saying we were, then we should have told the buyer proactively, and we should have been able to bear the financial pain of that. I think at that point of time, I sort of didn't really do it the way I would do it today, and that's been a lesson.
One inflection point in a way. This happened after your departure, was an episode at New Cuff Parade. As a guy who's a marketing maven in a way, just before the show you said you actually like the process of marketing, sales and communication. One imprint of Lodha that a lot of people I think still remember today is that episode of New Cuff Parade, of that wall. Now, I have a feeling that Lodha in a way created the crisis by giving it more publicity than it should have. It otherwise would have been ignored. As someone looking at it now, okay, just as an observer, if you were to look at it, how would you handle it today? I'm sure even Abhishek would handle it very differently now. How would you look at it?
I'm not really going to be able to comment on a specific thing, but my belief is there is no point of ever getting on the wrong side of your consumer. So if you go pre-2015, you would probably see almost no consumer complaints against Lodha. If you see at House of Abhinandan Lodha today, I'm very happy to say that we are probably at our size and scale, crossing probably 2,500 crores in net sales this year. We'll probably be one amongst the only real estate organizations where there's not a single RERA complaint. So I think the consumer is why you exist. Even at times, if you believe he's not being reasonable, you must try to find a way to reach out and be reasonable. 999 out of 1,000 consumers who have pain with you. are happy to assuage the pain with communication and logical behavior. There could still be the one guy who could be there for multiple reasons, who's not really logical, whatever. That's the only person you should really be having a difficult conversation with.
Who's the one developer you would like to emulate?
Difficult to say. I think
अभिनंदन लोढ़ा किसको अपना गुरु मानता है?
गुरु तो मैं मानता हूँ श्री दीपक पारेख को. I think there is no, I don't think from a developer perspective I look at anybody as a guru. There's a lot to learn from people like Niranjan Hiranandani, Mr. Rajiv Singh, Mr. KP Singh.
What do you like about them?
I think with the Hiranandani group, I think they really brought execution of unbelievable quality to the city. I don't think if you go to Powai even today and you go back 20 years in time and think somebody conceptualized to build this in Powai, I think it is quite revolutionary. I think the DLF family built Gurgaon. I think bringing commercial there, bringing GE there at a time where India was not known for being commercial is revolutionary. I think both of these were revolutionary things to do.
Deepak Parekh, you said. Why is he your guru?
So I think Deepak Parekh is really the guru of every person in real estate who's done anything. And my personal story, you'll need 2 more podcasts to go through them. But I will tell you, I went to him as a 16-year-old boy, fresh out of college, 1997. And I was standing in the lobby of HDFC Raymond House, ground floor, which is where you used to have home loans. And their GM called Mr. Naresh Nadkarni used to sit on the ground floor. And I was supposed to meet him. I didn't have an appointment. So I went and spoke at the reception. And there was this lady called Nilufar Ilavia. I think she's still at HDFC. So she met me and she said, you wait, I'll convey to Mr. Nadkarni that you are waiting. So I was standing outside in the lobby in a jeans and a t-shirt as a college-going kid would. And Mr. Parekh walks in. I don't know who's Mr. Parekh. And he sees me standing and he walks up to me and he talks to me. And he says, who are you? So I said, sir, I'm Abhinandan Lodha. Mangalpal Lodha ji is my father. I'm here. I want to talk to Mr. Naresh Nadkarni. And he said, about what? He said, I wanted a loan I want to start doing real estate project in Nalasopara. So I wanted a loan for that. And he stands there and he tells me, "Theek hai, after you finish with him, if you have time, I have time. Come up and see me." And he walks into the lift and he goes. So I don't know. So I asked the watchman standing, "Kaun hai?" That guy's looking at me and saying, "Are you like, he's Mr. Deepak Parekh." And I went up to him, I sat with him, and since the age of 16, I'm now 43, 27 years of interaction. He's guided me, held my hand, taught me everything about real estate, everything about the consumer, which I know. I've seen cases where sitting with him, he'll pick up the phone, unknown number. He used to have this old phone, Nokia kind of phone earlier, and he would pick up the phone. Any random person can call him, he'll pick up the phone, and हमारा एफडी का इंटरेस्ट हमको अभी तक क्रेडिट नहीं हुआ है, आपकी कंपनी क्या कर रही है, एंड ही टेल द गाय, अच्छा रुकिए, आपका नाम नंबर दीजिए. ही इज गॉट द सेक्रेटरी कॉल विश्वनाथ. ही कॉल इन विशी एंड सेड, विशी लिखो, एंड ही सेड मैं आपको कॉल करूंगा, एंड ही पुट डाउन द फोन. ही कॉल अप हिज डिपार्टमेंट, get his view, call this person back, and this is Deepak Parekh, and he's talking to a guy who's probably has like a 5 lakh rupee FD and got a 4,000 rupee interest which has not come to him on the date it was supposed to come. And that talks to you about the culture of the man, that talks to you about the way he treats his company and the way he takes his life. And you can go up and talk to him. Anybody can go up and talk to him and he'll talk in exactly the same language.
Okay, just last couple of questions, Abhinandan. You said 2,500 crores top line. How are you on profits? What's the road ahead?
I think on an average we work at close to 40% EBITDA. So that's what it is. I think we will grow at 30% every year for the next 3 years from the land bank that we already have. And we want to expand to hopefully all these 48 locations by over the next 36 months of time. And if we're able to do that, then we would have built a story in India which will be, in my mind, very, very lucky and very, very remarkable.
Will you get back to doing the vertical developments that in a way made Lodha the brand?
I think House of Abhinandan Lodha is a brand because of what it does. I think at this point of time, we have our hands more than full with the horizontal development. The organization is built and ready for that. To get into vertical development would mean building a separate organization, separate brand, looking at it separately. I don't think today we have the space for it. Never say never, but right now this is quite beautiful to me.
But the next 3 years, you will not do any skyscrapers, any tall structures?
I don't see that happening at this point of time over the next 3 years. Like I said, never. I didn't imagine doing this, so I can't say never say. I can't say I won't do it. But today we have zero focus on anything except this.
Can you even imagine yourself doing redevelopment?
Not at this stage, no. I can't say never, but if I do vertical, then will redevelopment be my first calling? I don't think so today. But when we get there, when we have the organization ready, at that point of time, it's probably better to answer.
Okay, one of the common perceptions about Lodha is that a lot of things become easy because of their political lineage. Is how much of that really helps?
We've learned phenomenally from our father. He's a man who came with nothing into Mumbai. And he came to Mumbai because he was a practicing lawyer in Rajasthan High Court. And his father became a judge there. And he took the pain of saying, if my father is a judge here, I will not practice here. And he moved lock, stock and barrel with his newlywed wife to Mumbai with no background. Completely self-made man. Did everything the difficult way, but the right way in life. And he's taught that to us. He has great amount of goodwill. And I think undoubtedly in Maharashtra, the benefit of having his name, along with the benefit of what Lodha did when I was there and probably also later, is very, very helpful. But my father has been very, very clear from day one. I will not do anything for you which I would not do for anybody else living in my constituency. So his name helps, my lineage helps, but I don't think we would ever call up my father and say, no, Papa, I've got this work, can you please do it for me? No.
Do municipal officials give you special treatment?
I think definitely when I walk into almost any place, be it a financial institution, etc., I'm treated well. I'm not really able to pinpoint whether it is because of what I did from 2003 and 2015 and now, because my name and my brand itself has certain value, or purely because of my father, or a mix of both. Very difficult to say, but I would definitely say I'm very lucky. We get the kind of treatment which allows us to put meritocracy at the fore.
What's the one big disagreement you and your father have had in business? Like just when he tells you, Abhinandan, you should not have done that. Like how all fathers tell their sons.
No, I think that way Papa has been the best person to learn from my mother and father both. And I think one thing which if I were to go back in time and change, I think he always taught one thing: don't be too aggressive, don't try to grow too fast, do it the right way, growth will come. And at a young 20, 22, 23, 24 years of age, you want to grow very, very fast. And I think that is always said, do this exactly the right way. And at times, you've been so wanting to grow that you would say, nahi yaar, karte karte main sab kuch dekh lunga. That doesn't work for him, and I think that's a lesson to learn.
Okay, last question. What does success mean to Abhinandan?
Being able to create a legacy, being able to create a brand which reflects the kind of person that I am, and being able to sort of bring innovation to the table and bring scale which people have not seen before.
So would you say you are halfway into their journey? 80%?
10% there. 10% there.
So success for you, do you have a number in your head? Like if I do this much in terms of top line, bottom line, that's success?
No, I won't define it by that. But I definitely believe that, if Vishal calls me back to the same podcast after 5 years and tell me, Abhinandan, I think the legacy you built for yourself now is far bigger than the legacy you built for yourself earlier, then I would have delivered success.
2030, you're 2,500 crores now. Where do you think you will be?
I think at 30% compounding, we should cross 2030 at 7,500 crores.
Okay, and say at the same 40% margin?
I hope to, yes, I hope at this point in time it looks like these are sustainable margins.
Okay, so that will be close to 3,000 crores.
If I get here, I will be extremely happy.
Okay, Abhinandan, time for my favorite round, which is the rapid fire. Which is your favorite builder?
I would say House of Abhinandan Lodha.
Outside of the Lodha clan?
DLF.
What's the first word that comes to your mind when I say Hirandani?
Beautiful construction.
Godrej.
Scale.
Oberoi.
Foresight.
Rustomji.
Good execution.
How important are channel partners in real estate?
Very, very important. They define the core of a lot of that you do.
If a young developer has to start a business in real estate, what would you suggest?
New generation land.
Redevelopment, what's the biggest risk according to you?
Being able to actually deliver all the promises that you're making.
In case if Abhinandan Lodha could go back in time, what's the one decision he wished he had never taken?
None. I think I'm happy with whatever life has panned out so far.
Zero regrets?
Yeah, zero regrets.
Which is the best building in Mumbai according to you?
There is, I'm actually forgetting the name. I think it's called Buckley Court. It's near the Wellington Mews, and I think it is by far the most beautiful building in Mumbai.
Which location, apart from your current location, if Abhinandan Lodha was to stay in Mumbai, which location and project would he choose?
Buckley Court, and I would stay in that area.
In that area. Okay. On that note, Abhinandan, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank
All
you
the
so
best.
much.